Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 25th of October. It's almost game day. Rangers taking on Sparta Prague tomorrow in the Europa League. Joshua is joining me. He is over in the Czech capital for us. And quite a lively night for you last night, Joshua. Met a few Rangers Review fans, I hear.
Yeah, not too late, Derek. But yeah, I did meet Ali and a few of his pals, so it was nice to meet them. Who say they watch us in the mornings, which is kind of them. But Prague. First time I've seen Prague, Derek, yesterday, and I know you've said you've been already, but it is a really nice city. So whoever's coming over, and I'm sure there'll be quite a few Rangers supporters coming over, will really enjoy it. Press conferences today. Ahead of the game tomorrow, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, apologies, folks. We are a bit earlier this morning. Joshua's got a big interview for the Rangers
and the press conferences as well. So it's a hectic day. Got to get up to the stadium. Sometimes these press conferences are kind of not back to back, but what will quite often happen is the team will train at the stadium of the one they're playing at the next day. But I think Rangers are training back in Glasgow this morning, so hence why there's two different times. But hopefully people can still catch us live, or if not, 9:30.
Yeah. Chris says at 9:04. What's going on? That is the reason, Chris. We've got Joshua's got a busy day today, as he mentioned there, with pressers and an interview. So lots coming your way on the website, hence why we're early this morning. But let's talk Rangers. Before we do that, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, the great guys at MPH Group, Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialist covering all of mainland Scotland, and every service you opt for automatically enters you into their incredible holiday giveaway. You could win a 7-night stay at the luxurious 5-star Moon Palace Resort in Cancun over in Mexico. Been to Cancun myself, absolutely amazing. Sounds like a great prize. If you're looking for some home improvements, then folks, give these guys a call. MPH Group, big up to them, and the all-important links are in the description. What's also in the description this morning is Chris Jack's great article on Danilo Dessers, where he looks at the possibility of the Nigerian international potentially reviving his Rangers career. Of course, he got on the score sheet at the weekend against Hibs. Was great to see him getting a positive reception from the Rangers fan base. It's fair to say he's had a difficult start to life as the Rangers striker. He hasn't shown anywhere near the sort of form that justifies the large outlay that Rangers paid in the summer. It was interesting. He was put up for the press afterwards. He was asked if he'd been determined to prove his critics wrong. He says, no, I think when you have this, you're going to force things and maybe play in a different way than you're used to. Maybe I did that a little too much in the past games. I was thinking too much as a striker. When you're thinking too much, it is never a good thing. I hope this is a new start for me as well. Not just for me, for the whole team. And we can go on from here and win a lot of games, hopefully. Could this be a start of a Danilo Dessers revival, Joshua?
It was nice to see him, get that reaction coming off the pitch, because you forget with players sometimes just how much they want it to work as well, don't you? And I think watching Dessers so far, you really have seen a player who, for whatever reason, it's just not clicked for him. And we're going to come on today to speak about some of the specifics as to maybe why it did at the weekend. Again, it's one game, so I think to say yes, to answer the title, can he revive his Rangers career? It'd have to be, I think, over a longer period of time to say confidently either way. But his press conference after was interesting, Derek, because I think it just shows you the importance of confidence in players. I think, for example, Sam Lammers, although he did some good things at the weekend, involved in 3 of the goals. And if you're talking about his performance as just a number 10, I think he did some good things. Obviously, takes a couple of poor shots and then misses a big chance as well. I think you can see he's playing without confidence. Maybe that's just he turns back too quickly or whatever. Whereas Dessers, I thought that 4th goal, the way he took it, and that third. If you watch Sima, when Sima scores the 3rd goal, Dessers he applauds and he's happy for his teammate, but he's frustrated at himself because he misses the opportunity. And if you watch the kind of go back, you'll see that. So then to have the kind of composure to pick out the finish as opposed to kind of slashing at a shot when Campbell played him through was I guess an encouraging sign. But as I say there, we'll go through some of the specifics as to why it was a good performance and maybe what changed, because I think so far we've seen too often is Dessers has been isolated, and you've almost been trying to play him like a 2019 Morelos, who will get you up the pitch, who can roll defenders on his own, who can. And I've not seen enough to suggest that Dessers is that type of player yet. He's 28, he's not 33, but I don't think he looks, for whatever reason, I don't think he looks kind of as physically mobile maybe as he has done, or maybe that he's just not that type of player. I think Rangers played into his feet more. They were closer to him. Wasn't caught offside once, which is the kind of the key stat from the game. But he had the highest expected goals. He had the most pressures. Led the expected goals chain, which just basically means he was involved in a lot of the good things that Rangers did. So I don't know what you think, but I certainly thought it was a kind of good step in the right direction.
But what gives me a bit of hope is the fact that he said himself in the post-match press conference he's been through these sort of troughs before where he's had goal droughts and he struggled for form. I think even at Feyenoord he struggled to begin with before hitting a good scoring patch. So that gives me a bit of hope that Philippe Clement can maybe get the best out of him. I remember when I spoke to the Belgian journalist, and even Freddie Franz ahead of Philippe Clement taking the job, and they said that he'll know Cyril Dessers well from his time in Belgium, and he may know how to get the best out of him. I think it was a surprise to see him perhaps starting the game on Saturday, but I think Philippe Clement did mention prior to the match that he was struggling for players, and that Danilo might have been forced back earlier than what he would have liked because of the lack of options in the forward line. But like you say, I thought the finish was calm, composed, and it will certainly give him confidence with the games coming up, I think. And there's an interesting point that came in here as well from the People's Champ. He said maybe tactically he was being asked too much of him. Clement might give him the freedom he needs. I think that's a fair comment to say perhaps of a number of players, Joshua, but for Cyril Dessers, perhaps that might be a valid point.
Yeah, well, I think firstly, what's an interesting point to maybe discuss is that Clement said, if you watch his press conference after, obviously at the start he's asked was he impressed, and he kind of shoots that down immediately, right? But I think the area of the game where he did was most kind of, I guess, visibly excited about his team's performance was the off-ball work. And he said, I can't remember the quote off the top of my head, but there was 3 different quotes, and he effectively said, I think we might have won the game because of our reaction when we lost the ball. And again, it's all throughout the piece that was on the website yesterday. There's a members video on it as well. But second goal is the best example of that for me, where Rangers twice win the ball back before Raskin takes that shot from range. But he also said that Hibs do play good football, but or have in recent weeks, but our defending from the front stopped them. And I saw a tweet this morning that said Dessers had, I think it's 26 pressures and Lammers 25, which is really high for a Rangers home game. And I saw a tweet saying, but he didn't win the ball back. But that wasn't the point. That's not. Sometimes you want a striker, I guess, to win the ball back, but if he's pressing. But quite often, what you want to do is what you'll see Dessers do a lot. Curve his run, like the PSV home game is a perfect example of this. Curve his run to stop a pass going into the player behind him and kind of direct it into a certain area. And although it was only, I think, Sima's first goal where Rangers really made the most of the space down the side the Hibs centre backs, all throughout there was these opportunities that they were able to create in transition that I think were the result of that pressure from the front. So I think that is one thing he's done pretty well, because he's not a really fast, agile player. I think it's hard to maybe associate him with being a good presser, but I think one of the differences, and that's what Clement said, so don't take it from me, was the difference in the way that Rangers front two pressed compared to the Hibs front two. On the ball, I think Cantwell helped a lot when he came on, because he's just in that position. He's so good. But if you look at the pass network, which is just basically average position, and don't worry if this freaks out, you can pause the video and look at the key below instead of me explaining it. But this is, Stevie and we were talking about what is similar to this range. What is Clement going to keep the same? What is he going to change, Derek? And I was saying in effect that he said, if I come in and change everything right away, if I play back 3, if I play wingers, if I completely rip up what this team know, then it's going to kill them mid-season. I've got to kind of work to a list of priorities. And this pass network, I think, shows that. Rangers overload. They've got an extra passing option on the right-hand side. And what they did really well, you see Scott Wright in that position inside. And again, this is explained in greater detail in the piece, but they also had that free pass into Tavernier, who was getting beyond his marker, who was in the left wing. Sima was wide on the left touchline and gave you a constant outlet as well. Some interesting comments actually on the website from Billy Reid, his former assistant at Brighton, today.
Great guy.
Talking about his best position and how he started at Rangers. You've also got Suter and Raskin, both right footers, who are naturally just going to kind of step in and play towards that right hand side. But Dessers, I think it was important how close Wright and Lammers and then laterally Cantwell were to Dessers, because again, if you look at the third and the fourth goal, he's not running onto it from 40 yards away. It's a screenshot here from I think it's the third goal. This is just before Lammers plays the ball in for Dessers, and you can see that Sima is kind of in a front two with him. Cantwell and Lammers have been able to create that free man against the Hibs midfield, who are outnumbered in there. And if you look at how close Lammers is to Dessers, he's not playing the ball from deep. He's not playing it in behind into a position where Dessers doesn't have the pace to get onto it. And I think what that allowed Dessers to show more of was clever movement, which we haven't seen so far, Derek. If you think of the one, the moment where he pulls off the front, Raskin plays into him, and he finds Cantwell, and Cantwell tests the keeper with a left-foot shot, or even that diagonal run for his own goal where Cantwell slips him in with a reverse pass. I think that's the maybe a sighting of the interchanging positions and kind of fluidity that Clement wants to see, and that was for me best evidenced by that kind of movement at the top end of the pitch. His expected goals before the game was 2.2 in the entire league season so far, and then that game alone it was 1.26, so kind of triple his average. So small sample size, it's one game, and absolutely I'm not putting my hat on the notion that he is going to revive his Rangers career yet, but hopefully all this shows that it was better. It was a step in the right direction, because for the short term anyway, he's one of the options that Rangers have to work with in there. And you'd like to hope that a new manager can get a little bit more out of him than he's been able to show so far.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Chris Jack has just messaged me. He says, my barber wants to know if you've got your building work finished yet. I can say, well, I am back in the front room. So hence why the building work is finished. There is no banging and drilling going on this morning. So Chris, if you're watching in Chris's barber, if you've got on the Ranger review in your barber shop, then I can confirm that building work is finito. I got back late last night, and it looked like they've done a good job as well. So fair play to the builders. Hats off to them. Just on getting up early, Davy Cleland says, I've 1,100 bricks to lay, been up since 5 a.m. Stop greeting. So there you go. Hats off to you, buddy. If you're looking for a bricklayer, then Davy Cleland is your man to go to. Jamie Ralston, up early morning, lads, on the way to Edinburgh Airport for the flight to Prague just now. You mentioned you've seen a few Rangers supporters over there, Joshua. I'd imagine there'll be a fair few of them heading out today as well.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Great, as I say, great city. One of the first places I've been where the beer seems to be cheaper than coffee. So yeah. So no, great city, and saw a bit of it yesterday, and sure people will enjoy it. Also, it's an earlier kickoff tomorrow. I didn't realise, Derek. So it's not the kind of
5:45 thing.
5:45 UK time. Yeah. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Have you been to the stadium yet? Have you had a look around? Are you going today?
No. Go today. So I don't think it's that big a stadium if memory serves me correctly.
It's just under 20,000, I think.
Yeah. So Rangers will be there about, I think it's about 5, 6 o'clock UK time. So we'll have all the coverage from the press conference, all the coverage of Rangers arriving and doing the pitch walk that teams always do, especially on European away days. So stay tuned for that later.
Yeah, Ian Ross with the point. Can you post a link to Chris's article, please? It's in the description box, Ian, just below. You should be able to click on that, and that'll take you to Chris's article. It really is worth the read. Some interesting comments coming off the back of what you're saying there, Joshua. Gaz Jones with the point, sort of touched on this yesterday with yourself and Stevie. Under Beale, the players look confused with the lack of a game plan. Under Clement, there will be a clear game plan, a proper style of play. That was just 2.5 days of time with the players, pretty much, Joshua, that Clement had maybe a little bit more. He did see himself, he didn't have much time. It wouldn't have been the best performance of the season. But Thursday, as we touched on, will be a different challenge altogether, won't it? I think Sparta will, you'd imagine, come out at Rangers. I'm not sure if you've seen much of them, but they are top of the Czech league. They are doing well under their Danish boss, and I think they'll provide stiff opposition tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comment there by the end, I remember writing after the Old Firm game that I think it was 9 different teams Beale had selected in 9 games, and when he came in, there was real kind of consistency in the starting 11, and I think some good performances, but it just seemed to unravel at the start of this season, from kind of one decision after the other. And I think once you maybe do that once, whether it be not starting Cantwell on the first day of the season, if you start playing catch up when there's games in such quick succession, or it becomes difficult. And I do think that, especially when Beale spoke so often about kind of relationships on the pitch, and we've touched on this a little bit over the course of the last week, Derek, but Cantwell and Tillman, especially last season, were so important domestically to what Rangers did by being those kind of 2 creative free players who provided a goal threat and I guess really took advantage of the autonomy they had to move where they wanted. But there was also consistency in that kind of front four because there wasn't many options. And this season, that there was never, still isn't probably a strongest kind of starting 11. I think now at the moment you're starting to see that, okay, Abdallah Sima's definitely nailed down a starting spot. Interested to see what happens when Rabi Matondo comes back as well, because I think before he got injured, he was really starting to look pretty exciting as well from the left-hand side. But I guess Clement will come in, and you'd imagine that he won't tinker quite as much. He's got less options at the moment, and it will be interesting to see if he does. He kind of attacked and defended from a broad like 4-4-2 shape with those little adaptations on the ball in particular. I'd like to see Cantwell in this system. Definitely like to see Cantwell in that. If it's going to be 2 midfielders and one ahead, I'd like to see Cantwell as that number 10. Absolutely interested to see who fills that right-sided spot. I think it could probably be Cantwell and Lammers, because that player on the right wasn't, hugging the right touchline. But I guess we'll see over the next number of weeks. Is Clement going to stick with that? Is it going to be a little bit more adapting to each individual game? I think the thing that's going to be key, and I don't know how much we can learn from Saturday in relation to the normal home game that Rangers will play, because they'll have to set the tempo. The team won't come out, and they'll have to kind of create space. But I do think if you look at the third and the fourth goal, that was more encouraging, because one of the key things that's going to define Clement's time at Rangers is how to break down a low block when you've got a kind of anxious Ibrox crowd. If you rely too much on individuals in that type of environment? So that you've got Hearts coming up in a couple of occasions, but you've also got Dundee away, I think Livingston away. So I think those 2 games are games you'll learn a lot about, because that's the type of game that over the course of the season I think can be quite defining for a Rangers manager.
Yeah, lots of points coming in. Nice to be comment here from Francis Joshua. She says, "Fab piece of yours yesterday, Joshua. Even though I might not understand all of it, but I'm getting there." So that is fantastic stuff, Francis. Just on the structure and shape, John Wood with the point, quite simply, any structure would have benefited the players as Beale was offering nothing, he says. Good pragmatic start from Clement. And an interesting point here from Maka. He says, do you think Big Phil is in the same position as Beale was in? Win all the games until the end of the year, and then see who comes in during the transfer window. Yes, I think we want to see a bit more on the entertainment front. I know when Michael Beale came in, it was all about just winning games again. And apart from trips to Tynecastle and Easter Road, Joshua, which stood out, apart from that, it was pretty turgid to watch, I've got to say. I did remember a post-match interview he gave at Tannadice, where he said that infamously they're not Real Madrid yet. I don't think they ever got to anywhere near Real Madrid, perhaps Real Madrid's B team, but I think we're just wanting to see a bit more entertainment on show. But I think the remit is the same. He has to win games. You are Rangers manager, and you have to win games. If you don't win games, then you're not in the job.
I think there was more what Rangers really struggled to do, and this is why Saturday probably was their best performance of the season, because it was for 90 minutes. Quite often, I think under Beale, and I can think of quite a few examples off the top of my head, whether it be St Mirren at home towards the end of last season, or St Johnstone in Cantwell's first game, or there was really good periods, and I think periods of the game where you could see, okay, this is clicking. You can see why it works, having kind of 2 free players, and the reason I think so much of his structure was built, so much of his team was built around giving those players freedom in the final third. That's why the fullbacks were high and wide, and that's what his style of football is based around. But then when those players aren't there, or when they aren't performing, or when someone like Lammers comes in and doesn't hit the ground running, it becomes really difficult. Or when big players, miss big chances. For example, I guess there's these sliding doors moments, such as if Rangers don't have that goal chopped off in the Old Firm, or if Lammers scores that chance he should, or if Lammers, think back to the Servette game where Rangers should go 3-0 up in that first half, and then it maybe changes the tone of the second leg, and maybe you get more of a bounce out of that in the league as well. But I think what Beale will have recognised, and what was quite a consistent commentary, is if a manager is so obviously involved or heavily involved or driving the recruitment of certain players, then you kind of live or die by how they start. And he was able to recruit someone, especially in Cantwell in January, who you learned about this in the recent podcast, the Beautiful Game podcast, where Cantwell, to the outside world, to the media, had attitude problems, didn't want to play for Norwich, his career had taken a wrong turn, but for him internally, he just hadn't been treated well and was desperate to prove things right. So with that said, I think there was good reason to think that, Beale and the club could find a couple more of those players who had that quality but hadn't shown it in recent years, and therefore you're able to maybe recruit a player like Cantwell, who you wouldn't be able to recruit when he was playing well in the Premier League, even when he was playing well at the top end of the Championship, because he'd have been worth too much money. Whether there was too many players brought in that in that stage of their career at one time, whether it was that, I think as Beale said towards, I think after Livingston 4-0 winning the Cup, that there'd been so much change in the final third, and that's where players were still learning to kind of learning his style of play. I think when he first came in, he spoke about in his first press conference variation and new ideas. And I think that was a good thing, because towards the end of Steven Gerrard's time, I think it became too predictable, Derek, where Rangers hadn't, whether it was, they needed to refresh the squad more as well, but Rangers hadn't kicked on with their style, and teams were starting to work them out. And I think that was a good thing when he came back, but when Beale came back. But towards the start of the season, I think you're right, it was hard for supporters to see a definable style. There wasn't consistency in the team selection. And I think that did feed into the team's performance, and that was probably best epitomised in that Motherwell game where, you're playing with a back five at home. I know it was a back three, but it became a back five, didn't it? With Jack and Lundstrom sitting in front of it, and you do anything to win the game. But when you're in that type of positions, they kind of optics speak for themselves. So, can't remember what the question was at the start of that, but there were some musings on where it went wrong.
No, I appreciate your lengthy answer on that one, Joshua. Let's get to some more comments that come in. Just to clarify this from Magic Man 147, who was Sifu at the weekend. He had a knee injury. We'll get an update on his fitness today later on when we speak to Philip Clement ahead of the game tomorrow. We'll also get injury updates on a few others as well. Robin Clark, and I think this raised a few eyebrows when we seen the team announced on Saturday. He says, firstly, he says, Derek, he's starting Scott Wright tonight. It does clarify and says, or tomorrow even. So I'll let you off with that one, Robin. Wouldn't be overly surprised if I've seen Scott Wright in the starting lineup, Joshua. It's an incredible thing when you think about it. We all seen him heading off to Turkey twice. I think he went over to speak to the club over there. For the life of me, I can't remember the name. The deal fell through, and he's came out from the cold. A lot of people scratching their heads as to why he was featuring, and then he gets sent off in Michael Beale's final game. But yeah, he starts at the weekend. What's going on?
Yeah, well, I think Scott Wright's kind of like he's one of these players. Mason Mount's a bad comparison because obviously he's a world-class player, but what the point I'm trying to make is that managers sometimes have these favourites who different managers all like, even if sometimes supporters aren't quite as excited about the player on an individual basis. Do you know what I mean? Mount's that he's I know he's a bad example because he plays for Man United in England, but he's a good example in the sense that he's someone that maybe managers like and can take on a lot of tactical information or whatever. And Wright, played a big role under Gio, didn't he? Beale kept him here, signed by Gerrard, started in Clement's first game. I think it probably has a lot to do with limited options as well, because who else was going to start there at the weekend? Unless you maybe put in young Ross McCausland or Cantwell, who probably wasn't ready to play from the start. I did think there was interest. It was interesting for me that Wright, I think, especially when he came on against Aberdeen, when he's on the right hand side and he tries to hit the byline, I think he becomes quite predictable. And you saw that in the Aberdeen game where they were able to shut him down, and he did seem to there was a few moments when he had the ball in transition. He cut the ball back once, and I think Dessers didn't leave it for Sima, and then he was too late with another cross. So there's a bit of indecision in his play, but I also think he did well a couple other moments. There was that one where Lammers had the swiveling shot where Wright was moving inside the pitch instead of the outside, and I don't think he's a long-term option in there, but he is one of these players that managers really seem to like, and I guess he probably gives you a lot of kind of tactical discipline, because Sima as well, for all his attacking input, tracked his fullback religiously and was up and down the pitch. I mean, his running numbers must have been incredible at the weekend, and similarly, I think Wright was able to kind of fulfill a specific role for the manager to allow Tavernier to get wide on the right-hand side. But it'd be interesting to, if Clement does kind of stick with that system, it'd be interesting to see if he does recruit a player in that position, because generally Rangers haven't had a right-sided attacker, a right-sided midfielder, because they've not played that system, and generally because James Tavernier is their width on the right-hand side. But it'd be interesting to see if they recruit someone in that position in January of the summer.
Yeah, Ian Thompson says Mason Mount will love being compared to Scott Wright. I think he has Scott Wright pyjamas, the last I heard. But there you go. And just off the back of that, I thought there was an interesting point from Paul McTaggart raising the issue here. What's their best front three when all fit? Yeah,
no idea.
I don't know. How long have you got, Paul? I think we need to see more of the likes of Danilo Dessers under Clement, I think, to make a more accurate assessment at this moment in time. Abdallah Sima is the main man, Joshua. He's in rip-roaring form at this moment in time. We'll be looking at him on Thursday night to, I'd imagine, for the goals. I think he's capable of moments of brilliance. Still raw at times. Sometimes his touch lets him down, but his physicality is a real strength of his. I've seen more and more supporters now looking at a potential permanent move, if that can be arranged with Brighton. I think if he continues in this form, then the price tag may be a little bit too much for Rangers, because he's in right good form at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and we can come back to the question of the front three, because I have no idea. But I think he just gives you so much with his kind of running power. But when you combine that with and I think he times his runs in behind well. We've spoken about comparisons to Sakala, but I think they're pretty different players. Sakala is someone who wanted the ball to feet, and I cannot think of a single time Sakala timed the run over the top using his pace to get in behind the defence. Whereas Sima is, again, I don't think he's a winger. I think he's a striker playing out wide. You see that with this. If I take the screenshot up again, Derek, you see his position here. Yep. He's not out by the touchline. He's in between the Hibs centre backs, kind of forming that front two, and that's the right-sided kind of overloaded system that Rangers have used all season, and why I think, although Sima, when he came in, I was saying I think he's better from the right, because that's where he did better from Slavia. But that was because initially when he started playing from the left, he was getting the ball deeper, getting the ball with a defender at his back, and again, I don't think he's a winger, so I don't think it suited him. When he's moving to the left, I think has allowed him to make these type of movements where instead of being in a position as a right-sided forward where a Cantwell is there or a Lammers and getting the ball in these type of positions, he can run onto the ball, get into the box. How many poachers goals has he scored so far, going right back to his one against Livingston, his first goal? And I think that's a great sign, because as we've seen consistently, I don't think Rangers have had players who've scored those poachers goals enough. So I think he has to keep playing at the moment because he's the one form. Who's the best front three? I don't know, because I guess it depends who's around them as well. I think you've got to, talking about the team in general, you've got to have Cantwell running things. I think you've got to have Sima from the left at the moment. Tavernier probably is going to be your width on the right. The issue you've got somewhat is if you've got Dessers, Danilo and Roof are all fit, that's a lot of players for one position. You've got Lammers as well. So that's why I think he'll probably continue with some sort of variation of the system we've seen so far, with maybe an extra attacker from the right-hand side, Sima on the left. But there's no doubt that I think, although options are good, how many of the best teams in the world don't have that kind of structured set best 11, where everyone on the pitch knows the relationships, everyone on the pitch knows who they're playing with week upon week to a certain degree, obviously with some variation from the bench as well. So that's definitely on Clement's to-do list. Find the front three that you and I can't think of at the moment.
Yeah. Lots of guys tuning in. There's a point coming in there. Mark with a good bit of advice here. Mark, he says, turn the notifications on and you'll catch the early starts. If you are just tuning in, folks, we are early this morning because Joshua is got his press conference day pretty much. So we've got to reschedule the morning briefing to attend those, and there's some extra special content coming your way that Joshua is doing it today, hence why we're early. Hoggy gets in touch. Morning, Hoggy. Can Dessers revive his career? Of course, he's 3 months in. He's not short of confidence either. It would be nuts to write him off. Absolutely agree with that. And there's a point that came in as well. Here, you mentioned that the lads at the start of the programme, Joshua. Ali gets in touch. Good meeting you, Joshua. There we go.
Good, and right back at you, Ali, as well. Good. Glad to see you're up at a good hour.
Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Lovely, excellent. Just finish up on this. David Kerr gets in touch, says, hi, Trips. Apologies for being late. I go in for surgery tomorrow and I'm in a bit of pain. I wish you all the best tomorrow, David. Hopefully it gets sorted and you're fighting fit before too long. As Joshua mentioned, the press conference day will have all the coverage on the Rangers Review YouTube channel and on the website. Chris's piece on Dessers is on there as well. Go and check it out. If you want to join our ever-growing WhatsApp group, then the link is in the description below, and we've got those offers on the website as well. £18 for an entire year or £4 for 4 months. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. I think we'll be back later on, will we, Joshua?
Yes, yeah, we'll be, me and yourself, yeah, we'll have an extra special evening briefing after the Rangers press conference tonight, so that'll give us a bit more time. I think it's yourself and Chris on tomorrow, is it? Maybe tomorrow morning. So
yes, Chris tonight, is back tomorrow, yeah.
Chris with a new haircut. So looking forward to that. But we can speak through the team.
Yeah, cannot wait to see his. I wondered if he's got a fade. What do the kids call the hairdos these days?
Yeah, fades. I don't know if it's what the kids call it, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Chris has went for today at the Barbers.
Yeah, me likewise. Right, okay, folks, me and Joshua will join you a little later on. Thanks very much for your company. Apologise for the early start, and we'll be back later on tonight. We'll be back at 9:30 tomorrow then, so we'll speak to you a little later on.